we truly run out of real originality in music? The question raised recently when Sam Smith's Stay With Me was accused of being nothing more than a slowed-down version of Tom Petty's I Won't Back Down. When the dust settled on the dispute, Smith gave partial writing credit to Petty, and there were no hard feelings between the two, but it doesn't always end so pleasant. Marvin Gaye's family was awarded $7.5 million in a copyright infringement lawsuit because of the similarity of one of Gaye's songs to the pop hit Blurred Lines. So our next guest created a website that aims to help avoid these types of situations in the future. Stephen Nathanson, founder of SameThatTune.com. Stephen, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Ed.
Stephen, I think it's a fascinating concept here, but as we've seen here, and I can even go back to George Harrison and My Sweet Lord and the Chiffons, basically, with He's So Fine, that this has been going on for some time now. It's fair to say that a lot of songs and tunes get stuck in a writer's head, and sometimes you just blatantly throw it out there and you have no idea that you've basically plagiarized.
That's correct. And in the case of the first comparison you played, Sam Smith and Tom Petty, Smith claimed to have never heard the song, I Won't Back Down, and Petty actually said very graciously, yeah, this happens sometimes. And it's, to your point, this has been going on for a long time, since George Harrison and well before that. And part of it is due to the fact that familiarity in music is actually a very good thing. People like to hear something that's familiar, and that's part of why when you create a hit, people actually try to follow, in some ways, a pattern of creating something that's happened before that's currently successful.
But what you're pointing out is, and it's a fact, you've got to be very careful, because as we saw what happened between Blurred Lines and the Marvin Gaye song, I mean, look, I consider myself fairly good on music. The first time I heard Blurred Lines, I'm thinking, wait a minute, I can hear the riff in the background. It was absolutely copied at that point, which makes people think you can do it, but you've still got to have some originality along the line, don't you, Steve?
Well, I think, it's funny. There's a very old famous quote that says, artists borrow basically and genius steals. And part of what's happening nowadays is that people are less discreet about borrowing from older songs. And I think you're right. It's been going on for a long time, but I think that people are a little more, I guess, less subtle about how they interpret or incorporate those elements into a new song. And it's partially because we're in an era right now where people grew up with free access to digital files, with YouTube, with streaming, and there's not really an understanding that this is copyright infringement. If you take another person's work, you have to credit them, or you're at risk of being sued.
I wanted to also mention other people's work because there's a fascinating story that's going around right now. The major independent labels, they're not happy at all with Apple Music, and it looks like sooner or later you're going to get everything from a streaming service. Apple has basically said, we want a 3-month free trial to offer users, but we want your songs to pay 0 royalties. Steve, at the end of the day, that's working for free.
That's absolutely right. And it's funny, too, because Apple is playing catch up with Spotify. Spotify is really the dominant streaming music service right now. And Spotify offers 2 tiers, the free tier, which is unlimited, not just 3 months like Apple's offering, it goes on forever, and the pay service. Apple's basically saying, we want the music business to subsidize the acquisition of new customers. And the funny thing about that is Apple has plenty of money to acquire new customers, and they also have a built-in universe of customers. So the labels are understandably saying, wait a minute, why are you giving this stuff away for free?
Are we going to reach a point, Steve, where sooner or later, as I just alluded to, whether it's Spotify, whether it's Apple, whether it's any other service, that all of our music is basically going to come streamed that way? And I guess that's certainly not what the artists want to hear themselves, because I think they're afraid they're going to get ripped off in the process.
I think you're right. Unfortunately, CD sales used to be dominant until MP3 files came along, and that eroded the sales. And now streaming has eroded the sales of MP3 files and downloads. And unfortunately, it's, someone said that convenience is really the thing that's driving it. That Daniel Ek and the people at Spotify created a really convenient way to listen to all of your music at any point. And so I think that's why people are enjoying it so much and pursuing it. But the labels have also kind of taken a strategy this time, as opposed to with iTunes, where they said, okay, give us some equity in your company. We may not get a big payout right away, but as your company grows and eventually you do an IPO, we'll get paid that way, and we'll also get some ad revenue as well. Spotify gave some of the labels some ad space as well. So they're taking a little bit of a different tack, but it's not long-term, you're right, it doesn't bode well for artists.
I got told a long time ago in this business and every other business when it came down to entertainment, you don't work for free, because last time I checked, the electric power company is not going to take an IOU. I want to remind everybody again, samethattune.com. It's a brilliant site. It really is going to be so much fun to look at, and for artists specifically to find out what they're doing and what's out there. Steve Nathanson, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks a lot, Ed.
Stick around. MidPoint continues.